It struck me a few months back that even though John and I have been doing this on YouTube for 5 years, believe it or not, we never really talk much about ourselves. And really, how much can you trust a pair of random dudes you just meet on the internet? So here's my opportunity to be a little open and vulnerable with all of you, and I hope you enjoy it. Here we go. As a kid, I always loved technology, and I owe a lot of that to my dad, who unintentionally started my passion for tearing things apart when he gave me his radio out of his old 1971 Malibu for me to just destroy and tear apart. I remember unscrewing and peeling layer after layer of wires and motors and circuit boards, just being so fascinated by all of the parts inside. That moment really set in my mind a love for figuring out how things worked. Funny story, my sister had this super expensive doll called a Teddy Ruxpin that had cassette tape in the back of it, and it had speakers, and its eyes moved and mouth moved to the music that was playing on the cassette. I mean, just look at this thing. It looks like it's going to murder you in your sleep.
Hi there, my name is Teddy Ruxpin. How are you today?
Fine.
One day, Teddy Ruxpin just stopped working for no apparent reason, even with new batteries installed. I may have done some unfortunate surgery on Teddy and removed some unnecessary parts and then put them back together. Sorry, sis. Anyway, I was so hooked on tearing things apart to see what was inside and how they worked that I basically destroyed every toy that had electronics in it. Fast forward to high school, I was a terrible student. I didn't have much of a direction of what I wanted to do or where I wanted to go in life. I was a computer nerd when being a computer nerd wasn't a cool thing to be, and spent my free time tinkering on computers and playing the drums. I barely made it out of high school with a high school diploma. In fact, if it wasn't for a certain science teacher who was willing to give me a passing grade in exchange for installing some games on his school supplied Macintosh, I wouldn't have graduated at all. So thank you, Mr. Karajanis. Anyway, needless to say, after I graduated, I was just aimless. I worked in the pets department at Walmart and got fired after my 3-month probation period. Then I saw an ad in the paper for a job opening at a new computer store that was opening up in my hometown, and at the urging of my girlfriend, I applied. The funny thing was, I applied for a salesman position at this company and not a computer technician. And as you can guess, they decided not to hire me. That's not actually where the story ends though. One of the owners, a guy named Bob, saw something in me that I didn't see in myself in the time. He asked if I'd be interested in being their computer technician, and absolutely, I took the job. They needed someone to build computers, troubleshoot issues for customers, and help do whatever the business needed. The irony was that that was my dream job, and I didn't apply to it because I didn't think I was good enough. From that point started my official career in computers. Under the mentorship of Bob, I learned the ins and outs of building PCs, installing networks, building patch cables, and so on. I loved that work and that job so much, and there was never a dull day. I owe a lot to Bob, I guess, and he basically single-handedly gave me the gift of a lifelong career. Decades later, I wrote the guy an email after scouring the internet to see if I could find him. Never heard back. So Bob, if you're out there, thank you. The computer store is actually where I met John, who's my partner in crime here at Two Guys Tech. He was a high school kid who'd come by the computer store on the weekends and bum around, play video games, and talk about PCs. He had a love for playing video games, and we'd spend countless weekends playing Unreal Tournament, Quake 2 and Quake 3, and StarCraft. I would have never actually met John if it wasn't for that job as well, so I guess I owe that place even more. Fast forward years later, since I didn't go to college, I had a serious uphill battle to climb. I'd moved out of my small hometown to larger cities where competition was high and degrees were a minimum requirement, which, by the way, is complete bull. Not having a degree prevented me from getting in the front door of so many jobs, which was really demoralizing. It took a long time to find a job that was interested in me, my capabilities, and my expertise, but I finally did find one. I understand why businesses filter candidates this way, and they want some obvious indicator that I was knowledgeable. I get it. So I did the next best thing. I started getting certifications. By the time I moved to Oregon, I had found a company that was willing to invest in me, and with their support, I took classes to get my Microsoft Certified Systems Engineer certification, the MCSE, followed by my VMware VCP5 DCV certification, and a few other security certifications. Those classes, books, and trainings made a massive difference in my abilities and my career. By the time I decided to leave that company, I was the most senior engineer that they had and was responsible for all of their infrastructure across their sites in the United States and Canada. Now, there's more to my personal journey and success than just the training and the education. The secret sauce for me is my passion for playing with tech at home and in my personal life. Having a home lab, setting up VMs and containers of different software, troubleshooting when things didn't work, and experimenting with networking, firewalls, and so on directly helped me in my professional life. I can experiment with something, get familiar with how it works, get comfortable with it, and then either add it to my mental tool belt or even apply it at my job. These days, I'm currently known as the Senior Infrastructure Engineer, which basically means I'm responsible for virtualization, server and network design and planning, implementation, management, and so on, and I get to keep the lights on. All of that wouldn't have been possible if it wasn't just for a few pivotal events in my life and time. lots and lots of time. I love what I do, and I love that I get to work with technology, teach others, and learn more. So here's a few things I've learned over the years. First, I'm thankful that not having a college degree isn't as much of a barrier as it used to be. It bothered me so much back then, and it bothers me now, that people think a piece of paper is an accurate predictor of a candidate's ability to fulfill a job, learn, and grow. Some of the best engineers I've met in my life in IT, software engineering, and so on were more hands-on and self-taught people. Second, certificates are a good alternative to a degree, but in retrospect, I feel like they're more of a cash grab revenue stream for companies. For example, my first certificate was an A+ certification from CompTIA, one of those baby's first certs things that validated I knew how to work on computers and had basic knowledge of parts and troubleshooting and so on. That cert never expired back then. I'm still technically A+ certified from 1998, and it's valid. These days, you have to take that test every 2 years to stay current. The same thing goes for VMware data center virtualization exams. You're good for a few years, but you have to retest and pay them money just to maintain your cert. The logic there is just crazy. After 2 years, you haven't forgotten all those fundamentals and things you've learned, and between versions of software, not that much changes. This leads me to number 3. While certs feel like a cash grab by big business, reading books and taking classes about the technologies is valuable and transformative for your career. It was for mine. The internet is full of books and resources about how stuff works, and for the most part, you can access a lot of that stuff for free. Do this for yourself if you're interested in an IT career. Find a discipline you might be interested in, virtualization, Active Directory, cloud computing, whatever it might be, and just start reading. It will make you better. I suppose now that we're nearing the end of this, I should try to come up with some words of wisdom and just tie a neat little bow around this. So here goes. The key to being successful for me in IT, particularly without having a degree, was having a passion for it and staying up to date. I do this by tinkering with software and hardware in my home lab, reading tech news, and challenging myself to learn something new. Everyone out there has the capability to learn this and be able to do it if it's something you love. And if you want to make a career out of it, you absolutely can without a degree. Just dig in, find your passion inside of it, and start learning. College wasn't for me. Believe me, I tried a few times, but I was still able to make something out of myself, and you can too. It'll just be a much longer route and harder at times. Now that we got all the way through this, check out this video right here. This is one I am super proud of, where Jon and I went through the process of planning and building our most recent VMware ESXi virtual host that runs all the VMs and services we use here at the channel.